Hey, what's going on, guys? Sinister Skater here. Today I wanted to discuss Black Ops 4 and its development with Treyarch. If you guys didn't hear, just the other day Jason Schreier of Kotaku published his article titled The Human Cost of Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and it goes into detail about the studio life and work-life balance and just how Treyarch is pretty much a mess and how it's affected the state of Black Ops 4. It's very, very interesting. I found it kind of sad to read. I've gone through, I've kind of highlighted some areas I wanted to talk about, like a school paper or something. Just wanted to discuss it with you guys. It seems like Treyarch as a studio in the state of Black Ops 4 is at fault of Activision and the upper management of Treyarch, the very, very high up people running Treyarch. Activision is pushing very hardly microtransactions into Treyarch and Black Ops 4, and they really don't have, Treyarch themselves, they don't really have a say on what they can do with the microtransaction. They kind of just have to do what Activision says, and then the poor management of Treyarch is creating this very diverse, almost like segregated economy between the actual developers of Treyarch and the QA testers of Treyarch, which is just creating this very hostile environment. Is not helping workflow, it's letting bugs slip through, and just production of Black Ops 4 overall is just very, very poor right now. And the QA testers are like being treated almost like, this might be an extreme example, but almost like slaves. A little over exaggerated, but that's kind of the situation going on with Black Ops 4 and Treyarch right now. So we're gonna dive deeper into this. I'm gonna go over some parts of the article. So Jason Schreier interviewed a lot of QA testers who have asked to remain anonymous for the sake of their jobs. He also interviewed a couple of developers, and just going from the start of the article, starts off stating that Treyarch has welcomed some summer interns this summer. They had a party for them. There was pizza, beer, and people were having some good times, except for the quality assurance testers, who are the QA testers, who were told that they could only stay at the party for a max of 20 minutes, and they really shouldn't drink or eat anything. They were kind of like frowned upon, saying you shouldn't do that. You should just show up, kind of conversate a little bit, and then leave and go back to your job. That's the state of Treyarch right now. That's a good summary of, good foreshadowing of what we're going to discuss here. The QA testers are like bottom of the pole, completely segregated from the rest of the regular actual employees of Treyarch. The QA testers for Black Ops 4 and for Treyarch, they're actually contract workers. I think this the people they work for is Vault. So technically they don't work for Treyarch, and it's almost like they are a completely separate team, separate entity in Treyarch. They work on the second floor of the office, while most of the developers of Treyarch work on the first floor so they can collaborate. Testers are told they shouldn't speak to any of the developers in any of the apartments. They have specific leads that they can go and talk to report bugs, but even then, they're very scared to talk to the leads because there's a fear that they could get fired, because it's just like, you're not supposed to interact with the main team at all. Many of the QA testers have stated that they feel like they work in unfair conditions. There's a point in the article where they go into crunch hours, which we'll actually go to. I had that highlight we'll go to in a second. But they stated that they would work 12-hour shifts. There'd be two teams of QA testers. Team 1 would come in from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Team 2 would come in from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. And they would have the AC on during the day, but as soon as it hit 10 o'clock every day, the AC would turn off, and it would be like a sweatshop for the second shift, the night shift QA testers. For management at Treyarch would say the AC was broken, or they're fixing it or whatever, and it wouldn't get fixed. And finally, they decided to fix it when people were like sweating and were, they were just in straight up horrible conditions. But more ways that the QA people and the developers are segregated are that the developers all park in like this really close parking lot, and then all the QA testers have like a 10-minute walk from the actual office, and they park in a different area. The developers actually, they get lunch catered in, they get paid breaks and things like that. The QA testers, they have unpaid mandated break hours. They're supposed to get their own food. When they're working crunch, they can eat some of the dinner that's catered in for everyone, but they're again told not to eat it until an hour after the food's actually been served, and all the developers got their taste. The actual people working at Treyarch, all those developers, are eligible for bonuses because they work for Activision. Some of the QA testers said when bonus time comes, they'll see more fancy cars, Maseratis, Beamers popping up in the parking lot. And the QA testers, since they work for an outside company, they aren't eligible for any of the bonuses, so they can't buy any nice things, and they're driving like beater up cars. Treyarch also sends out services about company health and like what they could do better, but the testers aren't included in those emails or any of the conversation going on with that. There's so many examples. There's so much in this article that's just really messed up, that the upper management at Treyarch treats the QA testers like crap. Some of the developers kind of have a disdain for the QA department as well because of the leak that one of the fired QA developers, they went on a rant and kind of posted all this information, like years of content worth, on Reddit right before the game launch or right after the game launch. I can't remember. And that leak left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. Upper management at Treyarch, some of the developers, they put all that hard work in, and then it was spoiled and leaked, and it created this bad relationship between the actual developers and the QA testers. Now, interestingly enough, back in Black Ops 3, they had a open world type campaign that got scrapped last minute, and then they did the campaign that we ended up playing in Black Ops 3. And when they scrapped it, that caused for extreme work hours, crunch hours. You guys have heard this far too much in gaming development. People work 12-hour days, 70, 80 hours a week just to catch up and make sure they can publish their game in time. And when they scrapped that campaign, it was like hell at Treyarch, and people were very unhappy, people were stressed out, and they were promising that they never would do that again. So come Black Ops 4, we've heard this far too much about this campaign, and it got canceled. Jason revealed some more information about this campaign. So the campaign was going to be a 2 versus 2 kind of like multiplayer campaign that you'd go through story missions with a partner, and I guess it would pair you up with another team at some point in the campaign mission, and you'd be fighting for like factions, and the outcome of your actual multiplayer fight within the campaign would dictate what would happen in the story, from my understanding, which is a very interesting concept, kind of a new twist to the campaign for Call of Duties. In 2017, the campaign team for Treyarch, the actual developers, and as well as the QA testers, because they have to test everything they actually develop, they had to put in a bunch of extra hours to get a demo of this new campaign for an Activision milestone event for like upper CEOs or something just before Christmas, and they actually got the thing working, and people were very satisfied with it. And then 2 months later, in February, word broke out, even though they promised they wouldn't scrap a whole campaign and just get rid of all the work that people have put into, they scrapped that 2v2 campaign idea and said, we're going to try and redevelop a brand new campaign, more of a traditional Call of Duty-esque campaign. That gave them 9 months to put a brand new campaign together. Now, Red Dead Redemption was going to be released in late October, and Activision didn't want that competition, so Activision decided to push Black Ops 4 up a whole month and will be released in October 12th, which gave people way less time to actually develop a full campaign for them, which is when they decided that it was just not going to be doable, so they decided to scrap campaign once again and then create Blackout, which they were saying made super crunch time. People were working 70 hours for months straight just to try and get Blackout out, and they were surprised that the mode actually worked by the time that the game actually launched in October. The QA testers were saying they'd work 12 hours from Monday to Thursday working on Blackout and trying to just get Black Ops 4 as a whole out in time, and then they'd work a standard 8-hour day on Friday and then another 8-hour day on Saturday, totaled 64 hours a week. And then if things got bad, if they were backed up and had more work to do, they'd do 12-hour days on Fridays and then maybe even another Sunday, which would put them over 70 hours for a week. Now, I've seen people argue that, okay, once they get past their 8-hour days, they get paid time and a half for going into overtime, and then they get paid double time when they are working past 12 hours on one day. People are like, oh, that's good money. And even the QA testers were saying the way it was presented, it kind of looked like a gift, like, oh yeah, we can get a lot of money this way. They're doing a service for us for asking us to come in and work extra hours, which was very manipulative. Of course, it was a big paycheck, and of course, to live in LA, you wanted to get a big paycheck, but that's just super duper poor work-life balance and stresses you out and has a huge cost on just your personal being, mental health, everything like that. I couldn't even imagine working conditions like that. And the thing is, when you're working crunch hours and working all this overtime, once the game releases, typically, this wasn't the case for Black Ops 4, but the crunch hours would end and you'd be reduced to your standard 40-hour-a-week wage, which would hit some families hard and they need to get an extra job. And then say they need to crunch again for like a month to get out a new DLC or something, be working that extra job on top of all this extra work at the studio at Treyarch. Just the quote, panic attacks, burnout, disassociation, you feel like boundaries are being violated, you lose all passion for what you're doing and forget why you were doing it in the first place. It's nightmares, what one of the QA testers, or one of the developers said at Treyarch. I couldn't even imagine enduring that for months on time. I couldn't even imagine, again, what that would feel like. Moving on down the article, post-launch for Black Ops 4, we all know what was happening. They were releasing updates weekly, twice a week, which completely burnt out the QA testers. The game was just getting progressively more buggier and broken because there was like this positive feedback loop. They were in crunch time pre-launch to the game. QA testers didn't have enough time. They didn't have enough workforce to actually test thoroughly every single bug in the game, which we've heard before in the zombies community for some of the blue screening issues that were happening towards launch. And then once the game launched, the player base would actually find all these bugs and the demand for them to get fixed would get amplified, so the developers were working more, and then the new update would get pushed to the QA testers, who again didn't have enough time to update everything, and they'd try to fix all the bugs, and then somewhere in there more bugs would ensue. It's just this positive feedback loop of just overworking people and bugs being introduced and trying to get more content out. And again, Activision is somewhat at fault with this because they wanted to push out more DLC, more microtransactions, on top of trying to actually get the game to properly work. For example, the following is a quote from one of the QA testers in the article. He said, a new update would go live and then people would look at Reddit. Reddit would say, this is broken, f*** Treyarch, do they not care about us, etc., etc. Then that gets passed on to the quality assurance people, and then a meeting is held with the QA leads. How did that bug get through? How did this glitch get through? And the QA people would say, we didn't have enough time because we're too busy fixing all these other bugs and you guys are putting out content too much and blah, blah, blah. Just, again, a positive feedback loop. And it doesn't help that the QA people and the actual developers of Treyarch they actually can't talk to each other because of this weird company policy from the upper management at Treyarch that just no one's working to actually fix. And the last thing I want to point out is, besides the poorly treated QAs and the segregation between the QAs and the developers, Treyarch is compartmentalized, segregated at a core itself. It's stated in the article that there's no cohesion between different departments. Multiplayer, zombies, Blackout, they're all working on the same game, but they're all in different worlds. They're all not supposed to like talk to each other, intertwine or anything. Only the upper leads of those departments can kind of cross over and do stuff. For a company, the lack of communication and the restraint on actually communicating with others and being able to share ideas is just very, very poor. And all of this is just resulting in what Black Ops 4 has launched to be and what it's evolved to be and how it still is today. I want to end this video with a quote that the article actually ended with from a QA tester. He said, more pay would be nice, when he was asked what he would change about Treyarch's work conditions, but I think a majority of us just want to be treated equally. And how many times have we heard that before with race and slavery and gender and civil rights and whatever? It's just like very shocking to see that in a modern day company. Apparently this is like the norm for the gaming industry, and it's why people are afraid to get into it, because the dark secrets of what it actually was is starting to be unveiled. So crazy stuff. Just wanted to kind of review the article and discuss it with you guys. I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. I want to again emphasize that Activision has a lot of responsibility for their games and kind of what is happening. And it seems like a lot of the upper management at Treyarch, a lot of the people we don't even know what their names are or what they do, are mainly responsible for what we have today. Like, I don't know if David Vonderhaar would be one of those guys. He is a lead on like the Blackout department, but he has an upper. He even said in a tweet that his boss, he was called to his office, talk with his boss at Treyarch, and I believe the guy above him is like the manager of multiplayer or whatever, and he's the guy that's actually responsible. So all the guys like working on Blackout below Vonderhaar, and then if we're going on the totem pole, the QA testers below them that are testing their stuff, they're all people. And I've always frowned upon people talking crap about a game and like threatening developers and stuff, but just this story has like humanized game developers so much more. And if you see like any of that poor behavior on the internet, I just would encourage you to step in, say something, try and get other people to understand. Maybe refer them to this article and try to get them to read. You know, there's only so much you can do, but it was just a sad article to read. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. This was a super long video. Let me know if you actually watched the whole thing too. I'll give you a cookie emoji. I'll heart your comment as well. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. My name's Sinister Skater. As always, hit the like button to get subscribed. Bell notification links down below in the description. 10% off Control Freaks as well as anything apparel from my Amazon and social link down there if you want to shop the link and help support the channel that way. But again, thanks for watching, guys. My name's Sinister Skater. Catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.